This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Hey guys, it's Zach. Just want to give you a heads up that this episode deals with stuff that is a little more adult in nature. Definitely something I've never dealt with in a comic book before, and you've been warned. So there you go. Enjoy the episode.
Watch out.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about
comic books, costumes,
facts, boots.
and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Wolverine and SweetMeats.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the misdrawn one, Mr. Mike.
I am lumpy.
Well, yeah, but in all the right places.
Oh, yeah, you don't know.
You're lumpy in the places where we love you. That sounded weird.
I just hide
but,
them well. I hide my place as well.
Yeah, well, you look good.
Yeah, shut up.
Okay, wow. Last time I comment Mike to start a podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
Today, though, we are in for a ride. We have covered for the whole month of January, we covered something very serious in Mr. Miracle. And then in February, we looked at some romance comics. Well, I mean, we're still in February here to close it out. But we looked at romance comics for a couple weeks, had a reprint we played, and then caught up on Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Excuse me.
Every time you
I move my mic.
I have a story about that.
That's the ironic part is everybody that comes in here, I tell them, please don't touch the mic
And
once
you
we
always
start.
do.
And I always like,
There it is again. And I'm gonna have to leave that in because it's a pain to edit out. So I'll just leave it in. And he knows that. But
I do.
So I was gonna tell you, the wife messaged me and goes, "Hey, the last episode I was listening, and it sounds like did one of y'all just like belch like to start the episode?" And I'm like, "No, there's no way we did.
We didn't. No.
Yeah." And I went back and I looked. It's you hitting the mic.
Ah.
And I was like, no,
That makes
that's
total
Mike
sense,
hitting the
yeah.
mic. Because it makes just a weird like noise kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there you go. She'll
Well,
she'll love that too. I'm not going to say a word, and we'll see if I get quality control notes again. I mean that sounded.
Do you
I didn't mean
remember?
for that to sound.
Do you
I'm
remember when we
thankful
used to
for it. I
hide
didn't mean for it to
messages
sound like
in
that.
the episodes?
Yeah, and she never said anything. So it's weird. Like
I really hope she hears this part where
we'll
she's
see.
like,
Here's the thing.
"What the hell? What did you hide in these episodes?"
You'll have to go back and listen to all of them. And you know what? I upload our episodes every week. I see the amount of episodes we've done. There's a lot.
It is a lot,
You got a lot to catch up
but it's
on.
good. It's fun.
Yeah. So we did romance comics. We did Beneath
It was
the
fun
Trees.
until today.
Well,
because of
today
what-
is different. I have a double feature for us today.
Yeah.
The first
Barely.
one, well, so we're going to cover a very known comic book character for a one-shot, and that's Wolverine, and it's a one-shot called Wolverine Revolver. And the thing about this is the art, which is going to make it kind of, I realize we're an audio podcast, so just go and you can look up the cover of this and kind of see what we're dealing with. It's, to me, looking at the artist's style, I think it's one of those where it was, the style didn't necessarily match the product, but if you want to see what we're looking at, go look at Wolverine Revolver is the name of this one shot.
What product does this match? Because this is bad.
So the thing about it,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but one thing I want you to, and we've not talked about this. Everybody in here looks like Hitler.
well,
Have you noticed that?
no, I hadn't. But before we get into that part, that's the shadow. I do see
I
that.
get it. Now let's go down here. Everybody's got a shadow right under their nose, just like Hitler's mustache. Yep. That's rough.
I didn't see that reading it at all.
Yeah, but now you can't unsee it.
Well, before we get into that, I was going to tell you the second part of our double feature because it doesn't get any better.
Boy, it gets worse.
As we dive into 1993, and I'm pretty sure this might have been. It does say Adam Mecca. I don't know if that's the publisher at the time.
Adameca.
Oh, publisher Dave Elliott. So this might have been like self-published or that.
This
but
comic,
it's a 1993 comic.
This comic comes from my collection.
That comes from Mike's attic collection.
So I have drug around a box of comics for like 30 years at this point, and it's in really good shape.
It is in really
like
good
they were
shape.
all in bags and
They
everything.
were.
This is when I ran the video music comic book store. It was an outlet store, and so I would just order everything, and then when comics came in, I would invariably take one of them, and because I got it at cost and all that stuff, and so I just bought everything, and SweetMeats just happens to be one of them.
That's right. The second part of our double feature is a comic entitled SweetMeats, and I will not tell you what it is in reference to. You probably have an idea, but I will tell you that the cover. That's the beauty. If you just look at the art for our episode this week, I have the covers side by side.
Yeah.
So you can see what you're getting into with Wolverine and the way he's drawn, and then this teenage vampire.
Oh, you gave it all away.
Well, yeah, but that still doesn't give away SweetMeats fully.
That's true.
And I didn't even tell Mike anything about this. Like, I don't really tell Mike, obviously, anything about these before we dive into it. I haven't let him flip through it, and he's kind of doing it now.
Well, here's the thing. I've just passively flipped through this before, but what I was doing is I was comparing that to the Wolverine art, and I was gonna say, well, SweetMeats may be stupid, but at least the art's better. But it's not. The art in SweetMeats, and we'll get into this, but it looks like. Did you ever receive a tract from a church? The little pamphlets with the things about the guy doing something bad and then he goes to hell. That's the art. Same thing.
It does kind of have that vibe a little bit.
This guy did tracks.
And the thing is I'm going to have to, find a way to maybe send out some pictures with this, because the only thing you can find online of it is just the cover. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it is all black and white, and it is all kind of...
It's because they don't want to ruin it for you.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
if you can find yourself a copy, we'll tell you what happens story-wise.
Yeah, find yourself a copy of SweetMeats.
I'm sure you can buy one somewhere for a couple bucks. But let's kick it off to start our double feature with Wolverine Revolver.
What if I look this up and it's like worth $300 or something?
It might be. I'm going to highly doubt. No, ours still has the free cover poster included in it, too. And I'm trying to figure out a place we can post this where it does not turn off all the guests that come in here.
There is one on eBay now for $13.99 or best offer.
See, I think you could probably get it for $12.99.
I think best offer is nothing. Well, now here's another one. This is this is the one with the poster. $2.50.
See?
Yeah.
No, $2.50.
$2.50. Right? Now, when this came out,
it was $2.99. I think
it was $3.95.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it got cheaper.
It got cheap. This is inflation.
Backwards inflation.
Yeah. Unflation.
Hey, don't listen to this. There we go. I had to fix it.
Why didn't you do that before we start?
Because I didn't think about it.
That's fine. All right. So
I moved my chair. I moved the microphone. I moved everything.
He does it. It's like you don't get ready.
No.
Okay, there's somebody.
I don't get ready until we start.
There's somebody who I talked about, and I brought it up in a meeting about how animated they get. That is a fellow podcaster here. That we celebrate.
We do celebrate him.
But you, I feel, knock your mic as much, if not more.
I probably do. But, yeah.
And it's funny, again, because you tell people not to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, again, it's one of those things where I just...
But let's go ahead and dive into our double feature. We'll start with Wolverine Revolver. And so this is a comic that was written by Victor Gischler, and the artist was Das Pastores, who is a Spanish artist. Are you talking about the box of Morton salt?
So I'm looking at SweetMeats, and in the listing,
why is it green on her? Maybe it's just the picture.
There's just a box of Morton salt for sale on eBay.
It's a sponsored search. I think Morton's just trying to get you to buy salt.
Oh, that is sponsored. You're right. Oh my, what a
big
stupid thing.
Big salt's trying to get to you, Mike.
Oh, gross.
Oh, man.
Okay, that confused me. All right, go.
But Das Pastores is a Spanish artist, and I've seen his other work on other things. And I think it works really well in other styles. I just don't think... I think it was one of these where the style just didn't match the
He pitched a no-hitter one time, didn't he? Das Pastores?
I don't think so.
For the Yankees?
No.
Oh, okay.
But the cover is what's going to get a lot of people to talk about. And the main thing to me is Wolverine is very bulky, but it's the teeth. I think it's just the amount of teeth that are shown.
It's a lot of teeth. They're big horse teeth.
His claws are very long.
Well,
but that doesn't necessarily.
My issue is the beady eyes, the big teeth, and the horse gums.
He does have a lot of gums.
Well, even the bad guy
And the
has
bad
a lot
guy
of
behind
gums.
him does too. But let me tell you, it's a very quick story here.
Thank God.
What we are is we're in Las Vegas,
Mhm.
and we're seeing a scene of what we find out is Russian mobsters kind of just sitting around this table that has a lot of like chips and money
Stacks
and
of cash,
beers, and it's two guys sitting across from each other. One, he looks very sad and kind of scared, and the other one just kind of has his arms crossed, and he's a bigger guy, and he just seems kind of just to be there, just not bothered by anything. We have the kind of, I guess, narration that is from Wolverine in this, or from Logan, because even though on the cover he wears his costume, he's not in costume at all during the story.
Wow.
But essentially we have a game of
Russian roulette.
that's going on. That's where the revolver, or the name of the story, comes from, because it's a 6-shooting revolver. And the two of them, there's one bullet that's put in, and people are taking bets on the two people playing Russian roulette with one another. That's all this is. And the narration is talking about how, like, this is just not, they'll bet on anything in Vegas, throw in the Russian mob, and it gets even worse. But we see that a back and forth being played between the two men of one picking up the gun, pulling the trigger, the click, setting it down, passing it to the other one, and it goes back and forth like a game of Russian roulette, while people are taking bets after each kind of click. And it goes from the scared guy, and he's safe the first. He passes it to the big guy, who pulls it up, and he's safe as well, passes it back, and it's time for the little guy again. All the faces in this are just kind of, it adds to the offsettingness of the story. It really does. And maybe that is intentional.
Well, okay. So just in looking through this as you're talking, I think if you took these panels into Photoshop and expanded them up just a little bit, all their heads look like they're squished. Like you pull his face out a little bit.
Hear me out. So a lot of times I thought it is that the art is shrunk down for comic books. Do you think that that is a case of?
I mean, right there with Logan's.
Well, I will also say I did send you a compressed PDF of this too.
Yeah, but this
so
is
some of that could add to it.
Nah, I just think that.
But maybe that is. Maybe it's the fact that it's when they shrunk down the board.
I don't know.
But it does it adds a little bit to the unsettlingness of this.
He needs to go back to pitching.
But the little guy puts the gun back up to his head, and this time is not so lucky.
Yeah.
And they drag the body off, and he's like, all right, what a show. Who's the next challenger kind of thing. And that's when Logan, or Wolverine, goes and sits down across from this guy at the table. And he's like, it's time for me. Like, I'm the next challenger. And he talks about how he's been hunting this guy down for a while. So it makes you think, all right, this guy who's been the other one that he's playing Russian roulette with is the big bad guy here. For some reason, we don't know why, though.
Mm-hmm. And
he sits him down, and he is the main Russian mob guy is explaining again, like, one single shot in this revolver. Logan stops him, or Wolverine stops him and says, make it 2. And the guy's like, all right, it's your funeral. We're going to do 2 this time, if that's okay with you, my friend, asking the big guy. And the big guy tells him, yeah, that's fine. So they put 2 bullets in the barrel this time. They close it up, and it's Logan's. I keep calling him Logan, but obviously it's Wolverine. It's interchangeable.
Well, he doesn't have a suit on, so
he doesn't. Logan. Yeah, and he puts the gun up, click, and he sets it down, and he passes it to the other guy. The other guy pulls it up, click, sets it back down. So now we have 4 chambers, 2 bullets, and it's Logan's turn again. When he picks the gun up, this time the gun fires, and Logan is obviously shot down. And they go to drag him away. But as we know, Wolverine is regenerative in the way his health is.
Yeah.
So he kind of, as they go to drag him away, he knocks them off, and he picks him back up. He picks himself back up, and he climbs back to the table, and he sits there and sticks his finger in and kind of digs out the bullet and throws it on the table.
Nuts.
And he's like, all right, that one's used up. And he sets the gun back to him, and he goes, your turn, knowing that the 2 bullets were placed obviously side by side in the chamber then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, nobody asked for a second bullet.
So the other guy picks it up knowing what's about to happen, and we have kind of panels back to back of where it's just their eyes staring at one another, and he pulls the trigger, and sure enough, it fires again, and this guy hits the ground. Well, everybody's like, oh, wow. You thought you saw a show. Some guy basically evaded death, and now this guy died. That's crazy. You never know what happens here. And they notice that guy's not dead either. And this guy's like clothing starts to rip at the seams, and he starts transforming because this isn't a normal guy.
Yeah.
We find out that this guy is essentially a demon that
He looks like
Wolverine
a
is
big
hunting
bat.
down. He looks like a giant blue kind of bat-like creature, but
Yeah.
he's a demon that Wolverine's hunting
Okay.
down. So all
Because
the
that's
Russian,
what Wolverine does, right? He chases down demons.
well, in this story he does.
sure.
So or a monster of some sort.
Yeah.
All the Russian mob kind of turn their gun on the monster and starts firing. He makes quick work of the entire room, just kind of killing everybody in the room, as Wolverine's still just sitting in his chair watching him do it all.
Yeah.
And he kind of tells him, he's like, he's like we find out that Wolverine is chasing him down because apparently he murdered a group of
Nuns.
Native Americans.
Oh.
Like an old
Native
chief.
Americans.
Yeah, like an old chief and a whole tribe of people.
What?
Yeah, because he talks about the old chief had the sight, like he talks about being able to see into the future, being able to see who he was, all that. Anyway, Wolverine's been tracking him down since
That's
like
rough,
Oklahoma,
dude.
since like Oklahoma to Vegas, and he's like, "But you know what? You can't defeat me." And he's like, "I'm too strong for you." And they have a battle, and Wolverine, in the process of this battle, he chops off one of the guy's arms. One of the monster's arms, and the monster grabs it and holds it back to him. And as he's holding it there, it starts to mold back together, like to form back together. And he tells him, "You got to be tougher than that." He's like, I'm able to kind of like regenerate. Like you don't know what you're messing with. And Wolverine pulls down his shirt to show him like the deep bite mark that he had delivered to Wolverine is healing as well, and showing him like, yeah, we're kind of one of the same thing here. So they have a giant fight. Wolverine goes through and cuts this monster apart kind of piece by piece, right?
Right.
He takes his legs and takes them apart, his head and his torso. So we have like, I guess, 6 different pieces.
Yeah. So he's in chunks.
He's in chunks, and
Right.
the monster's telling him like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna regenerate together once my body's back together again, and
Yeah.
I'll come for you." And
Yeah.
Wolverine's like,
Well, he says he Humpty Dumpty's himself back
exactly.
together. Yeah.
And Wolverine tells him like, "Well, that's fine. I kind of hope you do." And he starts driving back through the Southwest. And when he gets through a canyon, he'll just throw an arm here,
Driving through this.
and he keeps driving. And he gets to like another canyon. Oh, another
Yep.
arm there.
Yep.
He's spreading this
That's the way
guy.
you do it.
Yeah, he's spreading this guy so far apart, which funny enough is the way you have to kill Wolverine too.
Well, it's like Dexter.
Yeah.
That kind of thing too.
But far enough where he's not going to be able to kind of take him apart. And he talks about like
Yeah.
the whole time, like while he's going, it goes from threats at first of like, "Oh, I'll get you," to like panic of like he's realizing, "Oh, what's happening?" He's like, "Come on, man! Like you can't do this. Like this is cruel even for
Well,
you."
yeah,
Like,
the head's talking to him the whole time he's
He's
driving, all that
driving.
stuff. Yeah.
And what Wolverine does, and he's like, "No, you want to know cruel?" And what Wolverine does to essentially close out the comic is after he spread his body, parts everywhere, is he takes the head to a canyon and he has it face the wall,
Yeah.
or of a cave in there, and he has it face the wall so he can't see anything but darkness.
Yeah.
And that's where he leaves him, and that's the end of the
Yeah.
comic.
So here's my reflection on this.
Yep.
I hate it. That's my whole reflection. I absolutely hate this comic book. The art is weird. It's just so. Having been an art teacher, I had students that could draw like this, and I would tell them, "No, don't do that." So it just makes me kind of angry when I see it.
I'm
And-
realizing that you obviously did not support a lot of students, is what I'm hearing.
No,
that could have gone on to
Yeah,
be
absolutely. Yeah,
comic book artists.
yeah. A lot of them are mechanics at this point. I don't like the story either. There's nothing there.
Well, it's just a one shot, so I get
Well,
what they were trying to tell.
Could have been one panel. It's bad.
Well,
Yeah, I don't like it.
that was just.
But thanks.
That was the amuse bouche,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah. No,
Uh,
it's not bad.
because the main thing that we were getting into.
I mean, it is bad, but I'm just saying it's not.
But
bad for us
I just
to
wanted
cover.
to share
Yeah.
that art with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much. My
Yeah.
life is
So
complete.
now when you think of Wolverine, that's what you'll think of.
Yeah, I'll think of gums.
Do you think he'll show up in Deadpool?
Oh yeah, all gums. Gumverine. Benverine.
Oh man! But what we will do now is get into our main feature, which is SweetMeats. But we'll do that right after this break. All right, welcome into the second half of Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's time for us to dive into that great 1993 classic that you probably missed, SweetMeats.
The classic. Okay.
Again, well, it's one of those things. I kind of love stuff like this in a way that I don't want to say forgotten in time, but like obviously.
Well, it kind of is.
It is, but like things are remembered from the big ones. Like this was a small. Like there's no reason. I take that back. I'm not saying there's no reason. Like somebody felt to tell a story. I can't say there's no reason because I have I'm doing this podcast. I have to think there's a reason somehow to be creative. So there was a reason for these people to create this, but it's just not like a comic that stayed in the forefront, obviously. And so it's fun just to kind of see things because I think there's jokes in here that are kind of the sign of the times too with stuff.
On that cover, I don't mind it so much. You know what I don't like about this cover is her two little vampire teeth.
Why?
You take the vampire teeth out, it's not that bad, honestly. The cover's not that bad.
I
mean, it is for the time, she's scantily clad and all that stuff.
But
I'm
it's
saying
not like
the cover's
it's only
not
even
terrible.
half a belly button that's shown. Like it's not even a full belly button.
Sure.
Compared to some stuff we see in comics.
But she is wearing a bandage as
granted,
a bra.
the content that we get into in here is going to be something. It's going to be a little risque, but also something that I have never seen before in comics.
Wonderful.
Let's go ahead and dive into. I do love when I open the cover and I look over here to the left. It kind of gives me a table of contents.
It does.
And it tells me Love Bite, which I don't know what that was. Because here's the thing: it's not like I can go and find any of this anywhere on some of it because it's from 31 years ago. At this point, right? So I don't know what Love Bite is. It does say that it first appeared in Fleetway's Crisis 58.
Crisis 58. What?
And then we get into SweetMeats on page 7. So we have a little backstory, which I think maybe explains our character here. So it was from another world, but anyway, SweetMeats was written by Steve Tanner and Pete Venters. Art was by Pete Venters. Lettering by Caroline Steeden. And cover art and poster art by John Bolton. Probably not related to Michael.
Yeah, that ass clown.
Yeah.
That's just,
So the dedications in here, should I read the dedications?
Please.
To all victims of circumstance, especially... Let me finish. Especially those with the tenacity to still succeed. And then that was Pete. And then to my mother for planting the seed was Steve. Those aren't bad dedications.
Yeah, whatever, Casey Kasem.
Wow. No, I didn't say anything about it. We're not going to go ahead and get to the rubber band man thing again. All right. So Love Bite, I'm assuming from this was this vampire character.
Yeah.
And what this does is I think what we open
up. It's a guy,
with,
girl, what is it?
It's a guy.
Okay.
What we get with Love Bite, and again, just know that we're getting into some stuff here. Yeah. So know this is going to be some very mature, just kind of out there content. Again, This is just another warning before I dive in. You've been warned now. But Love Bite, this guy, and he's wearing he seems like a cool dude. He's wearing a leather jacket.
Oh yeah, that makes you cool.
He gives us a rundown of what vampirism is kind of in this world. And it's sometimes I get these urges, to drink blood. I first did it when I was 3. I just sank my teeth into another kid's neck and sucked. It gave me such a thrill. And he's just kind of going in about, how much he loved it. Blood tastes different from neck to neck. Females, it's sweeter. Old people taste corked.
Corked!
Yeah. And again, this is from the comic. And kids are really tasty. Like sugared lemonade. But babies...
Come on.
Babies are vampire champagne.
Oh, gross.
So you see the world we're kind of dealing with here.
Yeah, we're dealing with a weird world. I don't like it. Makes me uncomfortable.
No, get ready to get even more uncomfortable, Mike. These
Can't
are,
wait.
again, I want to stress, just to make Mike feel even more uncomfortable. These are comics pulled from Mike's attic. So, the youngest I've had was
30
6.
years.
Was 6.
30
is what
years.
he's talking about. Yeah. But
Dragging them around with me.
Essentially, I'm not going to get into him just waxing poetic about like how cool all these different kind of things are. He does say that vampirism is like a disease. It's a rare and curable disease. It's not like you bite people and you create more vampires. It's essentially the same way like a vampire has a baby, like, you know, and impregnates somebody and then they give birth to a vampire, just like regular people.
I got you. Sure.
But we do show that he shows up at this place that says books, you know, just a regular kind of scuzzy looking bookstore.
Books.
And he walks through and it has a panel where you can tell he's pushing beads to the side. So you know he's entering that part of the store.
Yeah, he's in the bad part.
And there's an old guy. There's a guy sitting down there or standing kind of hovering over this thing, smoking a cigarette. And he says like, anyway, little vampires are created just like little anythings are created. Good old-fashioned copulation, which is what I just kind of explained. And he talks about that he's got these urges. And he goes to this guy and he's like, I'd like a girl, please. And the guy goes, yeah. I'm trying to do like scuzzy voices because I feel like that's kind of how they talk.
I'm sure he is scuzzy.
And looking like that's the guy that seems hefty but like really long legs. He looks
weird.
like Jasper from 101 Dalmatians, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
There you
What
go.
a
That's
reference. Yeah.
Um,
Did you ever watch The Strain when it was on FX?
no.
Is that vampire?
Yeah,
show?
I vaguely remember a little bit, but no. I
Guillermo
didn't.
del Toro.
Well, I do
Who
like Guillermo
did
del
it,
Toro.
right? But I think that Guillermo del Toro like went to sleep about halfway through the series or something, because it fast forwards into the future and all kinds of it. Man, that got bad. Yeah, it was a bad show.
Well, you're not selling me on it.
Well, what I'm saying is, I really liked it at first. It was this same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and it was fine. But man, vampire stuff just seems lazy to me.
Sometimes it is.
You know?
We'll get into that because
Yeah.
here's the thing, Mike. Well, I guess it is a part of it. Well, we'll just get to the story.
Sure.
So he goes and he's like, "Hey, I've got about." Or he's like, "How much money you got?" And he's like, "I got about this much." And he gives him a stack. And he's like, "Oh, that looks about the right amount of money." I guess we don't have a price. I don't know.
Sure.
Which is I don't. But he takes him to the
4
store
rubles.
and he goes, and then when I see her, I realize what I've bought. Champagne.
He goes to the back of a bookstore and buys a baby.
And we see
It's
a
not
little
even a
girl.
baby, it's a kid.
a little girl, right?
Yeah.
She's 6. Her name's Linda. And the guy, like, there's creepy things, and I hate reading it even in a story where it's like, you know, have fun, Linda. Like, and it's very weird. But the guy, he walks to the edge of the bed, and he's like, hey, my name's, it's Alec, and I'm not going to hurt you like the others. Just come here. I just want to whisper in your ear. Like, the thing is at least, I say at least. No, I can't. It's a weird
terrible.
scene.
Yeah.
But he has just essentially paid for her just to eat. You know,
To
like,
eat her blood.
to
Sure.
get her blood. But she's being sold for other things, is what it's insinuated as, and it's gross and it's disgusting.
It's not good. I don't like it.
But as he goes in to bite her neck, she bites his neck instead, and we
Right.
find out that she's a vampire herself.
She is.
So
This is all in black and white.
This is
too,
all
by
in
the
black
way.
and
I
white,
don't know
too.
that we've
So
said
no
that.
color.
Yeah.
So we see that she attacks him, and she ends up killing this
Yeah.
vampire.
She just rips his throat right
She
out.
does rip his throat out, and she's, you know, kind of sitting over him.
How does that work?
I don't
Where
know.
a vampire bites a vampire.
Apparently, she can kill him
Huh.
because she's just sitting there as he bleeds out, just
She
kind
has
of wiping
champagne.
her face.
So
She has champagne.
uh-huh. Next on the main stage, champagne.
Then we start our sweetmeats. I guess that was what was that?
That was
Love Bite.
Blood Boy Jones.
So we see that this little girl's also a vampire.
Yeah.
We then
Is she
shuffle
in the
to
second part?
a mental. Yep.
Oh, okay.
We
All
do
right.
move to a mental institution now,
Oh, perfect.
or maybe that's the same thing.
Great transition.
And it's this orderly who was going to take food to somebody in the isolation ward.
There's something wrong with that car.
Yeah, it was in the 90s. Well, 80s, actually. You'll
Yeah.
see, because we're going to
Yeah,
flash
okay.
forward. And so the orderly walks in, and he unlocks the door of the isolation room to walk into the little girl's room. and you can already tell where it's going. Can't
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
Do you see why I hated
Yeah,
reading
it's a
this?
bad comic. Yeah.
And he sees her on the ground, and she starts playing with her hair.
Uh-huh.
And it's just
Well,
like,
and the thing
it's
is,
fetishizing, and I get like
well,
for the
sure,
story, I
sure.
guess, but still, it's weird to see.
Well, I'm sure that the argument here is that she's actually the hero kind of thing in this, and she's taking down this guy who
Okay,
awful.
so and the orderly kind of like gives her a creepy grin, and she matches back, and she walks over to him, and she's only waist high, and he starts to. We get a picture of
yeah.
him starting to undo his pants.
12 panels, no words.
No words of him starting to do his pants, and she has a look on her face. And about that time, we see we do get like screams,
Yeah.
and they're running in there to kick it down, and he is on the ground just bleeding out from his crotch.
Mhm.
And it's like he's covered in blood, or
We've
you
all
can
been
assume
there.
it is because it's all. I mean, it's black and white, so it's like
Yeah.
darker black and
Yeah.
grays,
Yeah.
and she's just kind of like
She's
bleeding from her
covered.
mouth,
Yeah.
covered with a huge grin on her face, as he's just like and they're like, Murray, get on the phone quick, and we get our tagline,
Sweet
meats. And that is where we start our story with a time jump.
Nothing like starting with a little illegal child stuff. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
It's a great way to start our story.
Good stuff.
Essentially, we're introduced to Jane Page, who is
Jane
a
Page.
new orderly who is showing up to work here at this new facility. And when she shows up, she essentially is like, I've just arrived from Montana. And this main guy is on the phone, and he's like, great, Dave. Are you lacing their meals or something? No, just that half the patients have shat themselves this morning. Yeah, those dirty little bastards. Like, he's on the phone talking. Yeah.
Ugh.
And she's just like, I'll have you know, Dr. Coyne, that I find, she goes, I'm looking for Dr. Coyne, and I'd like to let him know just exactly how his orderlies talk about his patients like this.
Dr. Coyne?
Coyne,
Oh.
sorry, Koenig.
Oh, okay.
Talks,
Koenig.
you know, how
Koenig.
Koenig, sorry.
Yeah.
How Dr. Koenig talks about the orderlies talk about it. And the guy goes, oh, yeah? And he picks up a name plaque to show that he is Dr. Koenig. And he like sets it back down. He goes,
Okay.
he'd love to hear you, go on and tell him. Then maybe we can find some work for you, assuming you'll allow that of an orderly. Like, he's just like,
Yeah, back then there was no Yelp.
yeah.
You couldn't like leave a review for the bad orderlies at the mental hospital.
She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. And he's like, damn right you didn't realize. Like, he's just an asshole to her.
Have you ever seen those reviews that people leave for like the jail?
No.
So around here you just call it Highway 6, right? Because that's where the main jail is,
Yeah.
right? Go on sometime and look. There's like Yelp and Google reviews for the jail. Didn't enjoy, 1 star or something like that, you know?
Well, were they did they have to visit, or was it like,
I don't know. I'm just saying, I hate the fact that this jail is a square, 2 stars. I don't know.
all right, fine, fair enough.
It's so weird.
Anyway,
Not sure where
we see that
that came
that's fine. We see
Yeah,
that Dr. Koenig is just an a-hole. And
Sure.
we see that Dr. Jane Page is already off kind of on the wrong foot. She meets another orderly here. Here's the thing. Like, we're introduced to these people, and they're kind of shown, but there's no really, like, any defining quality about them as a person, like, characteristic-wise, as much as they're just there
Yeah.
to process the
Yeah.
story. But her main
Well,
orderly is named Will Jefferson, this long
It seems like everybody in this universe is terrible except for the vampires.
kind of so far.
Yeah.
So Dr. Jane Page, like, they're going over and they're just kind of talking about like, oh, we have a lot of weirdos here. It's essentially what it does. And like, they use words like that. Like, they're trying to show you that, like,
When you go to the webpage, it says Bain Mental Hospital. We got a lot of weirdos here.
what we have though is we have first interview July 14th, and Jane Page is interviewing Linda. As you can see, we
Oh.
have fast forwarded in years now.
This is the little
This is
Linda
the
who's
little
grown
girl
up.
has now
Okay,
grown
all
up
right.
into, and that is who is
But
on the
she's
cover
still
here.
in the asylum.
She's still in the asylum.
Okay.
So it's been about 10 years, I think, is what
Yeah.
they've done here, because I think she's supposed to be 16.
How do you think they keep a vampire in a room that long?
They don't know she's a vampire. They just
But-
know that she has urges.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, how did she not break out? Like, vampires are super strong, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is they just talk about, so that's what
You
she's
got
like,
a 2-way mirror there. You can't crush that? Come on.
I do love, like, you can tell it's kind of a guy. There is, because the orderly watches on the other side.
Yeah.
I can tell that a guy wrote for a woman, and it's just kind of funny here.
Oh, yeah.
Linda, hello, Linda. My name's Jane. I'd like to have a talk with you. You know, girl talk. Linda? And I'm like,
I've never,
Yeah.
I have never referred to girl talk. I've never said that.
and then she's like, Linda, can you hear me? And Linda goes, of course I can. I'm not deaf. And she goes, no, of course. I see from my notes that you're 16 years old, and we've been looking after you since. And Linda goes, since I ripped someone's dick off with my teeth.
Yikes.
That's what it just says. Wow. And then she's like,
wait, she was how old at the beginning? 6?
6.
Okay, so
and
10
she's
years.
like,
10 years.
since you were 6 years old, whatever do you want to talk about it? And she's like, whatever, do you want to talk about it? And she's like, do you want to listen? That'd be nice for a change. Linda's like, Linda's already that rebellious teen.
Okay.
Got to watch her out too, because she rips people's dick off. So
Yeah, well, she got them little teefies.
with her teeth. 2 pointy ones. And Jane's like, it's my job to listen. Whatever I can do. Like, she squeezes the hand kind of there.
Yeah.
And then it's her meeting with the doctor, Dr. Koenig, and he's like, "Man, I've been."
Is this the real Dr. Koenig?
This is the real. Like,
Oh, thank
no,
God.
no,
Okay.
it was still the thing. The orderly, it was the doctor at the
Yeah.
same time.
I'm just making sure. Yeah.
And he was still the same.
I just
a-hole.
don't want to take any medical advice from not the real Dr. Koenig.
And he's like, basically tells her, like, I'm very impressed. I've been watching, your chats with her, and it's fascinating what you've been able to do. And Jane's like, she does, but I don't know why. I mean, okay, she really responds to me, but it's not as if she's my only patient. And he's like, oh, very sad case. And I'm trying to think what he's trying to. Oh, as I said, I'm impressed with your progress. Obviously, your Mickey Mouse diploma is good for something. In only a week, you've accomplished more than your predecessor did in 2 years. Damn fool, fell in love. Anyway, I'd like you to look at this. And he says that, and I like to think that maybe, because it's not really mentioned, but like, the whole aspect of glamoring, like that vampires can do.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it's alluding to.
These are not
but
the
it's
droids
never,
you're looking for.
It's
that
never,
kind of thing.
It's never brought up, but like everybody has a thing for her, kind of in a way, and it makes sense that it would be like that, but it's never brought up. So if anything, it doesn't come across as that, and it comes across as they're just weird and creepy for having a thing for a young underage girl.
Yeah. One they've been around for 10 years now.
But he hands her a file and says, it's Linda's full case history, family background, supposed reason, read it. Maybe it'll help you take things a bit further.
So this is just a page that's been typed, it looks like, right?
It is. And what it says, essentially, just to sum it up, is it talks about the birth of the patient, as in Linda's mom, is what it talks about there. Says that the patient's birth was induced by cesarean manipulation, but the mother was deceased before completion. Her demise was due to internal injuries, the womb, placenta, kidneys, and uterus suffering severe ruptures and lacerations, seemingly inflicted by the fetus itself.
Yikes.
Like she was eaten from the inside is what it's trying to insinuate.
So, but it doesn't say her mother was like this.
It said the patient's birth was induced. So that it's the it's
Do we get
Linda's
an
mom.
explanation of how this lady had a vampire baby?
Yeah, kind of,
all right.
in a way.
Keep going. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
We then jump forward to the 16th interview on August 3rd. And
16th interview over how much time?
well, from the first one was on the 14th. So 14, 17.
This is
20 days.
Wow.
It's almost an interview a day.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So Jane says, let's talk about your agoraphobia. According to your file, you have fainting fits if you come in contact with the open air and really painful rashes.
Well, it's sunlight.
How long do you remember having them?
Idiot.
Shall we? And that's what she says. She goes, oh, it's only if I'm in the daylight. Like when I go out at night, I've never been out much during the day, being shut in my room most, And she's like, shall we talk about that? And she's like, no, let's not. And they're like, well, it's been a long time ago. It's all dead now. And she goes, then why are you trying to exhume it?
Oh, I guess just the talk about it.
Because she's like,
idea.
she goes, I never went out during the day much, being locked up in that room, talking about when she was a kid.
Sure.
And Jane's like, I'm just trying to help you get better. And Linda goes, but there's nothing wrong with me. And Jane goes, isn't there? It's oddly sensual in some of this.
Yeah,
And because they turn back around.
Yeah, I don't like
like,
that. I don't
no.
like it. like
And
it.
Jane goes, can't we just, oh yeah, no, it's going there.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't
I'm
like
telling you, Mike, you're going to have to experience this. I had to read it.
I
You
don't
have
like
to
it. I
own
don't
it
like it. I
fully
don't
with
like
it. And they go in, and Linda shushes her, and they go in to kiss, and Jane pushes her away and goes, stop it, Linda. Just stop it. If you want to play silly games, fine, but you're only screwing yourself up. If you can't tell me why, and Linda says, why? Okay, I'll tell you why. It's in the blood. That's all she says.
Oh my! Ugh.
And then
What a t-
what?
nothing. It just seems lazy. It's in the blood,
I feel like
and
me,
I'm a vampire.
I feel like me adding the voices doesn't help. But
No, it's great. Yeah.
so then we get a meeting with
Why is every doctor on Linda? I don't understand. Is it the glamoring thing you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't. Well, see, here's
So
the thing.
she glamours
no,
them, but then pushes them away.
No, that's the thing. Is it's never brought up to me. That's me adding that in there.
No, I get that.
I can't explain that.
I
To
get
me,
that.
that's
I
me
just-
trying to explain it.
I'm just saying it's every doctor.
Yeah, no, they're all into her on this.
Wow.
And so Koning then, it's a meeting between Koning and Dr. Jane again. And he's like, I know this is difficult for you to kind of like deal with all your other patients, but you can't just keep focusing on Linda so much. Like you got to focus on everybody else. And she's like, I'm still getting work done. And he's like, no, you're kind of putting stuff off. And she realizes that the orderly just kind of like told on her. And he's like, why don't you just go ahead and mind your own business? Like, if I wanted an orderly in my, like, she just kind of accosts, like, she's just kind of yelling at him for it.
Because snitches get stitches.
Exactly. We then jump forward to interview number 37 that happened on September 12th. And I'm not going to do the math to tell you, but again,
It's a lot.
it's another 15 or so. Or 21.
Is this the same doctor interviewing her?
It's
This is
Jane,
Linda again, or
it's
Jane?
Jane is the doctor. Linda's the vampire.
By the way, I do want to say I loved her work with chimpanzees.
Well, I think this was before then.
Oh, okay.
Well,
All right.
and it's back to. So Linda's
Thank you.
talking. She goes, I remember all the blood. It was everywhere on my face, in my hair, on my tongue. It was lovely. And Jane says, you liked it?
I remember
And
the
Jane
smell
says,
of feet.
I loved it. I still do. And Jane goes, let's talk on this a while. I mean, you never mentioned this before. It could be important. Do you see that this blood is a pacifier, a fetish? Tell me what you think. Like they're diving into it. And Linda grabs Jane's hand and she's like rubbing it against her face, right? You see it in
Nope,
here?
don't like it.
And she's like,
Don't like it,
and
don't
she's
like it.
just describing like the desire for it and how much I'm not going to sit there and
No,
like make
please
people.
don't. Please stop. Yes, no,
Does it bother you?
I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well,
Yeah.
and she sits there and she's telling her all about it. And she goes, oh, I can even remember the taste. Oh, it's sour, but the blood, it's nectar.
Tastes like pennies.
Oh, it's so sweet. And like she takes her fingers and she shoves Linda takes Jane's
Yeah,
fingers and
shoves
shoves
them in
the
her mouth.
doctor's and her fingers in her mouth. And Jane goes, okay, maybe we should wrap up now. Okay. And Linda goes, I want the blood. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but that's
because
just
it's
how,
ridiculous. That's why.
because it makes me feel like a South Park episode.
Because
in a way.
the absolute next page here is a centerfold of
the
the lady
poster.
vampire
It is.
who is the same as the cover.
of her
who is-
spreading blood on the
There
white
is
panel.
some kid in this world that had that on their wall.
Oh yeah. I mean, she kind of looks.
This is
cute there. I get
93.
that.
This is 93.
93.
So
and yeah,
you got your Ken Griffey poster. You got your what is it? Backstreet Boys.
no, that was later.
Kids in the
New Kids on the Block.
New Kids on the
that
Block.
was kind of at the end.
And then
It was
you
Boys
had
to Men for me.
your SweetMeats poster right
Yeah,
there.
I didn't have sweet beans though. And then Linda has Dr. Jane's fingers in her mouth, and Linda's like, Linda, don't mess me around. And that's the phrase too. It's not don't mess me around is what it said.
Well,
a lot.
you said also a while ago, you said, let's talk on this, which is just a weird way to say it.
And then Linda goes, I want. And then there is the poster of the cover. And then are you ready to see what happens?
Yeah.
She bites down on her finger.
No way.
And then she's like, Linda, I'm bleeding. And then Linda's just going, like Linda's
Yeah.
enjoying the taste over
sure.
there. And Dr. Jane goes, okay, Linda, it's okay. I'm just going to hit the panic button. But it's just like everything's
It's okay.
fine,
I'm just going to hit
right?
the panic
Everything's
button.
fine. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. And Linda looks at her wrist and bites down on her own wrist as
yeah.
blood goes everywhere. And
Well, this is how you make another
Yeah.
vampire, right?
No, you have it's through good old fashioned
I
copulation.
thought
That's
they
not
were-
copulation.
I thought
Mike.
they would cut their things and bleed into their mouth.
No, on this world it's through just
Okay,
regular sex.
whatever.
And then we get a OF.
Yeah.
Kind of just, but like spelled
Yeah.
out,
Yeah,
not
it says
even.
the actual thing.
As she just looks shocked, but honestly, I don't know if that's a face of shock.
That's
It's
not a
just
face
kinda-
of shock. That's a face of diarrhea. Is what that is.
Anyway,
Constipation.
we're then taken to Dr. Koenig's office where the orderly gives Dr. Jane a drink, and he's like, "Hey, drink this scotch." She's like, "It's my fault. I pushed her too far." And he's like, "Yeah, you're damn right you did." Dr. Koenig tells her.
So wait a minute. This doesn't make her a vampire.
No,
Oh, okay.
you only
This
make
is-
vampires through.
This is just god awful.
Anyway, they try to tell her,
But
"Oh,
you know what? Way more story than Wolverine, though.
that is true.
way more
Lot
story.
Well, there's like
Yeah.
60 something more pages too.
Oh my god.
Not really. But the doctor tells her like, "You screwed up, Miss Page, and I'll flatter you with the what is he goes? Oh, you can head back to Montana tomorrow morning." And she's like, "You can't be serious. I've made so much progress." And he's like, "Fine, whatever. You're not going to get a third chance." Like he finally gives her another chance. Like she talks herself into it. The orderly always has a fascination with her. Like he's staring at their sessions while they
Yeah.
watch. And we get session number 38, which is just how many days later is that? 1 day
46.
later?
1 million.
No, it's just a couple days
12.
later. It's still in September. 37 was on the 12th.
Oh, see,
38th was on the 15th. So
You
3
didn't
days
tell me
later.
it was September. I mean,
Oh yeah, my bad. And they're there and like, "Hello, hi," and she's like, "How are your wrists?" And Linda goes, "Sore." Well, yeah, because you just bit
you
them.
bit them, idiot.
And we have like weird thing of like the hand on the glass of the
Yeah, the
orderly,
orderly,
of
yeah.
what we think's the orderly watching, and he's kind of jealous of Linda and Jane flirting because they do flirt even through the session.
Right,
It's like her
sure.
covering her face
Sure.
even while they're talking. And Linda's like, "Hey, Jane, I know I nearly killed myself a couple days back, but haha, I know, or no, or here, I'm not a dork." And like, I'm not a dork that's a weird thing to say, but still. And Dr. Jane says, "Okay, so assuming you're not a dork, you should realize, oh, that's why she says that, because they want to talk about it." And she's like, "I forgot about this." She's like, "You're 16. She's like, "Do you know what menstruation is?" Yeah. She's like, "So I know you're not a dork. So let's say that you know what periods are.
I don't
You
like
should
it,
have,
I don't like it, I
you
don't
should
like
have
it, I don't
started one by the time you were 14,
Don't like it. Don't like it.
right?" And but according to my notes, you never. Oh, I just read how that was written.
Oh,
That is
please
gross.
Don't. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Should
don't
I
do
not?
it. No, it's gonna make your brain bad. Don't
Don't
do it. Don't do it.
Anyway, that's brought up as a thing. I'm not going to
Yeah,
focus
it's not
on
great.
it. It's brought up as a
Not
thing.
great.
We're going to
No,
move past
don't
it.
like it.
But she
Mm-mm.
she does say, "I wouldn't want to taste," is the phrase in there.
Aye.
That's not even the worst part of what was there. We'll just
Dios
skip past the
mío.
rest of it. And then she uses that as a line to flirt, though, because she stands up and walks over,
no.
and that's where we see
Stop
like
it.
the hand on the glass.
Nope.
This is a weird ass
I
comic.
don't like it. I don't like it.
And they're like hugging, and she's like, "I guess I don't remember much about the customers. They're talking about something else now." And Dr. Jane goes, "Okay, but why do you think you killed him? The first guy that we saw at the beginning."
Right.
And she goes, "An urge." And Dr. Jane goes, "Nothing more than that. Don't you think you could have been reacting to the situation, all that pain spilling over when faced with the cause, you were blaming him?" She goes, "Why would I want to blame him? And Jane goes, "Don't mess me around, Linda," because she's running her face.
Yeah, Linda.
Don't mess me around is something I'm gonna have
Don't
to
mess
just
me around,
add to
Linda.
my lexicon. She goes, I was beginning to think we were friends. And Linda goes, "We are. He was just another trick, though." And she goes, "No, he wasn't. He was your father." The guy that she killed at the beginning, right? Okay.
Nope.
Flashback to the doctor's office,
Nope.
to where Jane's looking at Dr. Koenig and says, "Koenig, why wasn't I informed that she didn't know that?" He goes like, "It was an oversight. It won't happen again. Sorry. If I mess up, I get my marching orders. If you mess up, it's just an oversight." And he's like, "Finished?" She's like, "That's 2 months flushed down the pan." She's been loosening
Flush
up.
down the pan.
Flush down the pan. She's been loosening up more and more. I'd established trust. And the doctor's like, Well, then you'll just have to reestablish it, won't you? But it's unfortunate. But somewhere, the relevant documentation has gone astray. If it makes you feel any better, no one found out until 11 months after the original incident when somebody inquisitive, nobody compared blood groups to assailants and victim, and they matched. They're related. Blood relatives. Here's one of the jokes, right? I told you the sign of the times, but it's awful to get to it.
Yeah.
Of course, he didn't know she was his. From what they pieced together, it seems Linda was born out of wedlock. Turns out Mommy Darling was a hooker. Until she got pregnant, Daddy was probably an Avenue regular until their family quarrel. And then her uncle starts pimping her out. He. What a family.
He, indeed.
What a family. Worse than The Simpsons.
Womp, womp, womp.
See what I mean? With Sign
Yeah,
of the
it's rough.
Times?
Yeah, it's rough stuff.
Yeah, no, The Simpsons are super tame to that, sir.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is just bad storytelling. And she's like, well...
It's horrible dialogue, number one.
is.
Yeah.
And Dr. Jane's like, well, I don't want to make things worse. I'll lay off the intensives for a couple days. Maybe we'll be able to kind of, get things back.
This could be a decent story. It could be. If you take out all the gross stuff.
Oh, it's about to get grosser.
I know
Mike.
it is, and I don't like it.
It's about to get to its grossest moment here as we come down the home stretch. And so the doctor Dr. Koenig tells Dr. Jane, forget it for now. Take a short break. Let things settle. I mean, what she's been through, things can only get better, which is a weird thing to say. No,
It is a weird thing
it's
to
not,
say.
No, things can only get better. We then see the weird orderly who obsesses over her and the guy who is the,
Chef?
no, he's the, I can't think of the name. He's the attendant. Like he's helped cleaning the, he's another fellow orderly kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Janitor. There we go. And he tells the nickname that he has for the orderly. Like, again, the dialogue in here is just the janitor tells the obsessed orderly, hey, if it isn't Uncle Fester, child molester.
Ugh.
How's it going, my man? Still hot and horny?
Oh, stop it.
Again, these are comics from Mike's Attic from
These have nothing to do with
31
Mike.
years ago. They don't. They have absolutely nothing to do. This is just an absolutely ridiculous comic book.
My attic is better for not having them.
This is one of them that I wish somehow the mildew would have gotten to. Yeah. But we'll continue.
Just like Grandma.
Then he just tells him Greg is the terrible janitor who uses awful dialogue like that's name. The orderly William tells Greg, he's like, Greg, you gotta stop doing that. And he's like, where are you going? And he's like, oh, it's Friday night. And you know what that means? It's time for wash night. And guess who's first on Uncle Greg's itinerary?
Ugh.
He talks like that, right? And I get that they're doing it to write him for him to be creepy, but it's still just creepy to read it.
Yeah, it's not good.
And he's like,
Again, children could have picked this up.
fifth time they've screwed up the roster this year. And he's like, can I just see, all right, man, I can just see her looking at me with those eyes. And they say stuff like that again, which makes me think that it's supposed to be glamoring, but they don't add that as a story.
No, they never said
Which
it.
would still not make it any less creepy,
No.
but it, so Will, the obsessed orderly, takes the stuff from Greg and goes, yeah, well, wipe that smile off your face. I'm going to go ahead and take the rounds. I insist. Then we see somebody walking into Vampire Linda's room, and she's listening to her headphones, and you see, hello, Linda. And they go, Jane? She's like, no, not Jane. Jane's gone away. It's just you and me. Free to do what grown-ups do, is what it says.
Gross.
As Linda looks scared. Do you want to guess out of who it is now that's on there? Do you think it's the orderly there to go bathe her down? Who do you think it is?
No, I think it's the Dr. Jane.
You think it's Dr. It's not Dr. Jane.
Oh, it's not Dr. Jane?
It's Dr. Koenig.
Oh, Dr. Koenig, of course.
And he says, you'd like that, wouldn't you? It's what you've been waiting for, isn't it? Of course it is. Of course it is. I've been waiting too.
This guy.
Look closely. Remember Brooklyn North? Remember me? Remember what you did to me? Dr. Koenig is the orderly from the very first of the story that got his dick bitten off. Because he's sitting there and he's grabbing his junk there in the panel. Then he points the gun. He has a gun that he points at her. I can't. And like, there's a whole dialogue thing. I'm just going to pass over this as quickly as he's just like expressing his love for her. And he's just like, I love you. You know, like I've always loved you. That's why I've forgiven you. And I've tried to take care of you. That's why I followed you from mental hospital to mental hospital. See what I mean? Like with the glamoring, it would make sense that he would still.
Oh, sure. Yeah. She drug him in there. Yeah.
He's like, I did wrong, but it's not as if you're a little girl anymore. I mean, we can just continue from. It's all. And then he holds the gun to his crotch and says,
Nope.
Just pretend it's me.
Nope.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to describe what happens.
Don't like it.
I'm just going to tell you the number. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Actually, you could say 12, 13, 14.
But those don't have to do with the thing.
Okay. All right.
There's 11 panels, 12 kind of technically,
of her
that describe of her performing.
Well, she puts the gun in her mouth.
She puts the gun in her mouth and then
Yeah.
to
She does that.
simulate,
Yeah. No,
right?
No.
For 12 panels
No.
on the gun.
I'd like to cash out, do I?
And it excites him. Yeah, this is the far. I think this is the worst comic maybe we've done so far.
It is. It's terrible.
It is.
It's awful.
And
Can we do Wolverine again?
And he fumbles the gun and he drops it, and he realizes he messes up, and he's like, "Oh no!" And that's when she lunges towards him.
From my experience, a bullet's not going to stop a vampire anyway.
No, and they hear the screams again, and they go down.
From my experience,
and they see that she has ripped out his throat, and he is bleeding out again. But he's like, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
And he's sitting there, and he's still, I couldn't help it. You've got to understand that I love her.
He got exactly what he deserved.
Yeah, I love her is repeated over and over again until we see her in a padded room.
In a padded cell.
Like with a straitjacket on her.
Again, I just don't know how they're keeping her there.
I don't know. We see a conversation between the two of them, and they talk about how between the orderly and the janitor.
Oh, okay. All right.
And he's looking like the obsessed orderly is looking at her, smiling still through the little like notch in the window.
Mm-hmm.
And the janitor goes, "I don't believe you, man. After what she did, you're still interested." And he goes, "Hey, I'm just checking on her, purely routine." And it looks creepy.
Dude, I do not mean to rein ahead or anything, but I'm starting to look at some of these panels coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
It's all just this sexual abuse is all it is.
It's
gross. This is terrible.
And then so the doctor goes, "Well, don't get too comfortable with the idea." Sorry. The janitor goes, sure, me, I'm happy as long as there's a steel door between me and her. And the guy goes, "Well, don't get too comfortable with that idea. You're with me on breakfast duty tomorrow." And he goes, "Oh, rats," kind of essentially. And it's a panel, and it's split in two, though. And this is something I want to show Mike, because he grabs his junk, and it's split in half to where you know that it focuses on him grabbing his penis.
I don't like any of it.
Anyway.
I don't like any of this.
They talk back and forth about how, like, Coney, about how he had tracked her down.
Sure.
Because the orderly asks the Dr. Jane how to go with the police, and she goes, "They took all the files except for the Brooklyn North one I dug up."
Brooklyn North.
Which is where they were before. She's like, "Did you know he was the one who assaulted Linda when she was 6? I'm sorry, I guess I kind of gave that away. Yeah, but she goes, "He'd gotten off on a technicality."
You really screwed it up for me.
They couldn't prove that Linda was provoked. The next thing you know, the bastard is back on his doctorate. He tracked her from clinic to clinic until he could get her posted here. And he's like, he kept her like a pet kind of thing. It's just kind of weird. And the stuff in his desk, oh man, this is all weird. Like they're talking about everything. Or then again, if I had my dick bitten off.
It's nothing but playing
she's
cards.
Like, "Are you done?" He's like, sorry, I'm just finishing up, man. And the shift's like, I'm about to go home. And she's like, "All right, I'm going to go check on everything." And they go back in there, and she goes to check in on Linda. And they have this moment.
That panel is my problem. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get there.
That's not great.
And she's like, Jane tells Linda, "I had a hunch. I asked around. It's not you, that she's leaving," is what she's telling her. And it's not you, it's just me. Those come to bed and I'll show you something eyes. Is it you give it to everybody? Like, she's just telling her, like, you give those looks to everybody. I thought it was just me. It's kind of her having that moment.
So,
and
so
then
I want the audience to understand that
I hate this.
No.
Oh.
I want them to understand our sacrifice we've made here, because we're doing this for you so that you don't have to.
Yeah, because it's bad.
Because please don't pick this up.
No, if you see it, don't.
No.
Keep that 250. Jane
250.
says everybody does. They all want a piece of you, but they don't realize you want a piece of them too. Literally. I mean, it's crazy. I've had boyfriends. I've had sex, but I love you is what she says. And Linda says, I love you too, honest. And Jane goes, Linda, what have you done to me? And Linda goes, I can't help it. Will you make love to me? And the two of them there, and Jane just starts undoing her shirt, and she goes, are you going to bite me?
I
and
thought
Linda
this was
says,
a guy.
I don't know. No, it's
when I saw
Jane.
the panel, I thought it was a guy.
No, it's Jane.
Because this hand right here, I thought those were boxer shorts.
No, it's her.
Yeah, no,
it's her. Stockings.
Yeah, it's bad.
And she's like, give me a second, and I'll get that off of you. Talking about the straitjacket, and Linda just bites through and rips it open.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why did she do that to begin with?
And she's like, no problem. And the two of them embrace, right? And then we cut to. And
so she's really complicit in staying there. Like, honestly, she has been complicit the whole time.
Yeah.
Because she could have busted out of the straitjacket. She could have gone through the wall. She could have broken the mirror. She could have done any of those things.
She's been complacent in all this.
And instead, 10 years.
Yeah.
You just sit around for 10 years.
Then we cut to the orderly. So it's the next morning. She goes,
loves the tater tots.
She goes, yeah, I can see her. It's okay. And the two of them go in there to give her breakfast when they're on breakfast duty.
Sure.
Is she asleep? Yeah, she's asleep, and she's wearing a jacket. Here's where we get the namesake from this quote right at the very end. The orderly goes, she couldn't get us if she tried. And the janitor goes, well, you can feed her your sweetmeats, not mine.
Oh, no.
So it's exactly what you thought.
It's bad.
And he goes to wake her up and goes, Linda, honey, it's Will. It's time to eat. Cornflakes, Linda. And roll over, and it's Jane in the straitjacket. And Jane says, Linda's gone. Jane tells her that, the back in the office tells the two of them that she realized that, hey, she's healed. I figured she was cured, and I went ahead and discharged her. And they're like, what do you mean? You don't discharge patients in the middle of the night without completing paperwork. She's only 16, no family. Where could she have gone? There's more to this than you're letting on. And Dr. Jane says, you're right, there is, but don't worry too much about it. Linda, I told you, she's cured. As to where she'll go, I guess she'll just follow her urges, is how it ends, with a cool-looking Linda in a leather jacket and sunglasses hitchhiking.
That she got where?
Yeah. But then it says, I didn't read this, in the ancient Gothic streets of Berlin.
No. Read that correctly. In the ancient
Gothic streets of Berlin.
They break the word up,
Yeah.
which is so weird.
In the ancient Gothic streets of Berlin, a killer stalks the undead. Sugar Virus by Warren Ellis is a name in comics, at least. Martin Chaplin and Gary Marshall. A heart-stopping
Gary Marshall
love
from Laverne
story.
and Shirley?
No, 2 R's.
Oh.
A heart-stopping love story, literally. In the long, lonely nights in the city, a lover hunts for a prey. Night Vision by Dan Quinn and Hannibal King.
Who was the guy who wrote this?
Bad Blood. This was written by Pete Venters and Steve Trainer. It was two writers. Steve Tanner. Sorry.
It took 2 people for this.
Yeah, 2 people.
Oh,
Pete also did the art.
One of the
though.
writers did the art.
But there you go. That is SweetMeats in all of its unglory. That
really
was
bad,
awful.
Dude. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I had to read it, so I had to share it with you because I'm not going down on that one alone, man.
Is Pete This is the same guy. He's an artist on Magic the Gathering since 1993.
Oh.
So he's done actual work.
Oh, wow. Well,
But you can kind of, if you look at that art from Magic, you can kind of see it.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But still, look at him training something. But, well, I mean.
Yeah. I don't think this helped him.
Well, no. But he found work. I don't know. It has kernels of things that could be in something, but yeah, it did not turn out to where it needed to be.
You
I
can
see it a bit,
see it,
but it works well on that. But there you go.
Yeah.
So we did Wolverine Revolver and we did SweetMeats. We covered the just bad today.
Terrible.
It's been a while
comics.
since we've done bad.
Yeah,
That
this
was
is
bad.
rough, man. This is terribly rough.
Is that the worst comic we've read, Mike?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I have a
we've
feeling
read
we're
some-
going to say this a lot with the stuff that we get into with some of the things from your.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
it's in the 90s, which is the Wild West, man, when it comes to comic
Yeah,
book
it's all
stuff.
from about the same year.
Yeah,
so
93, 92.
92,
around there.
93. Yeah. And again, like I said, I had no filter on this, so I just took one of everything. Just like bought them all.
So there you go. That's what we had there. If you listen through this whole thing, thanks.
This is my this is my way of investing. Is what this is. I'll
How'd
take
it
all
turn
these
out?
comics and it didn't turn out.
Yeah. But what you can do is make sure to check out Rogue Media Network and the Rogue Media Network family of podcasts.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
And as always, we appreciate you guys taking the time out to listen.
Boy, do we.
And until
Especially on
next
this
time,
one.
oh, for sure. And until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Golly Con.
Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network